yeah, that's...
Wow, great. I was going to ask you
It's been stuck in my head all day.
That was the Survivor theme song?
Theme song. It's so good. I know all the words.
You're really good at it, too.
Yeah.
It's a weird theme song, too, because we've learned that they, for the music, they go and they go to different countries and they make the music around whatever, like, the country's culture is.
Is that true?
Or at least they did that for a while. I was reading up on the IMDb trivia page for Survivor.
Yeah, you said we learned it, but you mean we as in you and your brain.
Well, after last week's podcast, Grace, I told you about this, and the fact that you didn't remember it is pretty crazy, because if ever there was a fun fact.
Yeah, you said you were coming in hot last week with lots of fun facts, and
I don't.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome to the Pilot On podcast, everybody. My name is Elliott, and I'm here with my girlfriend Grace.
Yeah.
And we started this podcast talking about Married at First Sight, and then we got addicted to Survivor, and it's bad. It's real bad.
I think it's a better...
The addiction.
I think, the addiction itself is bad, but I think the substance of the addiction is healthier than a Married at First Sight.
Yes, it's way better. It makes me less angry.
It's like when people go from heavy drinking to smoking weed.
It's a calmer.
Yeah, they're less cagey.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Everything.
Yeah, our TV mirrors our habits.
Maybe that's what's happening.
How are you doing, Grace? How's your day?
I'm great.
Okay,
well,
I'll back off.
We're coming in hot. I am, at least. We, the collective, me and my emotions are coming in hot because we just finished the Survivor season 40 Wieners at War finale.
I mean, I tell you, folks, this is must-see TV. If you haven't gotten into it yet,
you must see it.
You gotta go for it, because
first of all,
yes,
Jeff Probst is doing it live from his garage.
Yeah.
And I love that they staged his garage, one, to look like the Survivor set, but they also made it look like they staged it as a garage. Like they put a bike here and a piece of cardboard box and a telescope.
Like every person has in their garage.
Probst, I mean, I honestly do think he's got lots of stuff like that around his house. I wanted now just the whole Jeff Probst house tour.
Well, yeah, because he's also in our musings about the show have found out that he makes about $40 million a year. So I also think his garage was the only place they could film that wouldn't look like they were talking to a king.
Yeah.
I bet the rest of his house is insane.
Yeah, that's probably not a garage. It's probably like the third villa on his property that hasn't been furnished yet. And they're like, throw some bikes and it'll look like a garage. Jeff is the everyman.
And it's not just garage energy, it's subdivision garage energy with all the little toys.
Oh, yeah.
It's very fun.
But it was cute, and he made it a point to say that he doesn't have any camera ops with him, and he doesn't had to get instructions to set up the set.
Very weird.
He can do it all. He's a one-man production crew.
Yeah, and you would think that shooting something from your garage would make you seem more like human, but he maintains that perfect television host
AI
persona.
robot.
Yeah, and a total AI robot, and
he's like a Westworld
he's one of the greats.
robot, and his loop is hosting Survivor.
Yes, and you can't get him off of it.
No, and nor do you want to.
No, it's perfect. He knows what he's doing.
I was just thinking, would there ever be a season in which Jeff himself had to compete on Survivor? I don't think that would ever happen, but I would love to, because didn't we talk about what game show hosts would be great competing on Survivor?
Yeah, that would be really good.
But Jeff would be too good.
Someone mentioned, I tried looking up Kid Nation.
Oh,
because on a previous episode, I'd mentioned that I would love to see a Survivor that was only kids, even though I know that would be so illegal and impossible. And then people reached out, were like, no, this happened in 2007. CBS did a show called Kid Nation where they dumped like 20 kids off in an abandoned town and let them make a civilization for themselves.
They did. And you found a clip of it. You couldn't find the whole show.
Yeah, I was so bummed. CBS, for some reason, doesn't have it available, and I couldn't purchase. I might go back to torrenting like I'm in high school or college or something.
I'm going to let you take that journey, because you showed me the clip, and just maybe 1 minute of it was too much.
Which is a lot for you, because you watch some pretty crazy.
I watch hours of 90 Day Fiancé. Hours. I'll pour it into my veins. All of the tragedy and the heartbreak and the
awful.
The guaranteed sadness. I'll just wallow in it. But a Kid Nation for 1 minute was like, God,
90 Day Fiancé.
Take them all out to pasture.
Do you know in Lion King when the Simba is a little baby and lands in the elephant graveyard? 90 Day Fiancé is the elephant graveyard of reality TV.
Yeah, it's fair. You know
Really?
what?
Do you think
Sometimes,
that's- okay.
sometimes you got to go exploring around there just to see what it's like. It will give you a better appreciation for things like scripted television.
Yeah, we've last night today I was like, babe, there's new What We're Doing in the Shadows. You're like, yeah, we should maybe watch something with a plot or
Scripted.
something.
Because not only are we talking about the finale that we just watched of the current season, we have been watching so many other seasons of Survivor that it feels like it's been 84 years since we last podcasted about this current season.
Right. We forgot entirely about the season we talked about last week. Watched an entire season in between and then watched
what did we watch? We watched Game Changers and we saw Sarah win that season.
Yes.
And then we just watched Beauty versus Brains versus Brawn.
Yes.
And that's where Michele won this season. How appropriate, because now we got to see their origin stories getting into the current winners at war.
So if you're just diving in, if you don't know what this podcast is, it's about
Neither do we.
Survivor. But
for right now, it's full-on Survivor.
Yeah, and it's ending, and we're where it's ending, so we'll let you know next week whatever shenanigans we got up to in the meantime.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit in this episode about The Last Dance as well.
The Michael Jordan documentary.
I got lots to think about and say and ruminate on.
Okay,
so
do
it'll
you
be
need
silent
a second?
on my part.
Do you have any quirky facts about Michael Jordan you want to share?
You don't even know, baby. You
Okay,
don't even know.
okay.
So this episode or this season of Survivor ends with the 3 finalists, and I thought about this because you brought up Michele having won.
Yeah, and she talks about in this season how her first win on Survivor, everyone told her that it wasn't deserved, and it didn't hit me till like halfway through the Beauty versus Brains versus Brawn season, and I was like, oh, this is what she's talking about. This was her origin season, and yeah, it does feel a little like it wasn't earned. I mean, not to discredit her at all, but I think her style of play is a little less...
it's less dynamic.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Yeah, it's less dynamic.
It's not colorful.
It's not super subvert, and it's not super extreme.
She's not a big character.
And so she plays the middle ground, which has a space in the show, but it's not as intoxicating to watch on TV.
It's like if your daughter brings home someone to meet, and you're sort of like, okay, yeah. If you're happy, I'm happy.
It could be better, could be worse.
Yeah, like that's fine. Like don't get hurt, I guess.
Right,
like we're not excited about them, but
I feel like it's like if you play baseball and every time you go to bat, you bunt.
Yeah, but
and everyone's like, either strike out or hit a home run.
You can't, yeah.
And she bunts and makes it the first every time.
But in that season, in the whatever it was,
the Triple B,
she gets that one guy. She votes. Okay, so they vote for someone in the jury to not be able to vote. So basically,
the final vote.
Yeah, they're given an advantage where they get to because the jury decides who wins or whatever, and they're like, you're gonna get to vote on one person who will not be allowed to vote. So they are able to find or think of the person who for sure will not vote for them for some reason. Maybe they hate them. Maybe they backstab them or something.
It's a great advantage.
And they kick them out, which is so crazy. And I was like, imagine what it would be like if you get kicked off of this show. You're staying in a hotel forever until you can finally do this big, grandiose tribal council, only to find out that you're voted off. That would be crazy. And then she votes this dude off.
Neil.
And Neil, as he's walking out, he says the craziest stuff I've ever. It's not even profane or that mean. It's just weirdly creepy.
So sinister.
He was like, you come into this show thinking you're a bad bitch.
Yeah, you came into this show thinking you were a bad bitch, and you're not. You're like a little baby cow, but you're suckling at her mother's teat. You're never gonna win this game.
Yeah.
Something like that. And he just said it like awkwardly, like rubbing his body because he didn't know what to do with himself, and he's never been evil before in his life on television.
I'm gonna try evil. I'm gonna get a little evil.
I'm gonna be a villain. I think I'm becoming a villain. You like saw him molting into a villain in real time.
He also probably was in the shower thinking like, that's the perfect, most badass thing to say. It doesn't have swear words. I'm gonna bleep me, and I'm gonna walk off powerfully. And everyone was just like,
it was so confusingly creepy.
Yeah, but then she goes and not only wins that season, comes back for the season that just ended yesterday, and then gets to the final 3.
The
girl, she's good.
She's very good. She plays the middle of the road, but she plays the middle of the road the best.
The best of the middle. And how many votes did she get, Grace? On
0.
This? 0.
That's what happens when you play the middle of the road.
That's what happens.
So it started with us trying to get our heads around what season we were watching.
Yeah.
But then basically they vote Denise off right away because the first tribal council, all of the tokens and rewards and games come into play. Natalie's back, first of all.
She deserves to be back. Natalie is a champion.
Maybe, yeah, Natalie, that's what happened first. Natalie got back in the game.
Yes.
The very first person voted off. We were both very excited about that. It felt like very cool and kind of like also poetic that she got another chance when she was the first one to lose her chance.
She was on an island by herself.
Yeah.
Just gathering goodies. And then I was like, that's
twiddling her thumbs and doing her CrossFit with some rocks.
And the show's called Survivor. So I'm like, that's the winner.
She did the title. She did the title. She gets back in, and then at the tribal council, everyone plays all of their tricks. It's like a bunch of magicians all doing their best work.
Yeah.
Everyone's pulling out doves and flowers from every sleeve.
You got Tony running around being like, I think Natalie's got an idol. But Tony talks in crazy, even though he's not crazy. He speaks crazy. And
but he also speaks rational crazy.
Yes, but he speaks it so intensely that it doesn't sound rational. So,
he's like, you know those, do you remember growing up at the mall and in the front of the toy store, they'd have those mechanical balls that had a ferret tail attached to it and it would just flip all over the place? And people went nuts for him. I feel like that's Tony running around this game, just flipping the little ferret tail all over the place.
Yeah, and that's perfect because he's got his little spy shacks that he talked about very seriously in the finale. Where he's like,
so great.
No, look, I have spy shack. Spy ditch. Now I have spy nest. I have a spy nest.
Spy
I go in the
bunker.
Spy nest is one too.
I wish he had spy ditch.
Spy nest, ditch, bunker. Yes.
Bunker. Yeah. Sorry. But no. So who played idols? A bunch of people played idols, where it basically came down to voting Sarah or Denise off.
It was,
I think.
well, what happened? Yeah, Tony was like, you need to not vote for Natalie because if she thinks she's going to be voted for, she's going to use her idol, which will force me to use my idol.
None of them knew what happened on Edge of Extinction, so Natalie came back and just basically made up. But there was still some truth to it, but she didn't tell them anything that all the prizes that she got over there. And Tony was like, she probably has an idol. No one believed him. Turns out she did have an idol. She played it. She was safe.
Yeah.
Tony plays his idol. He's safe. Ben plays his idol. He's safe. Michele won immunity. She's safe. The only people who are left, Denise and Sarah. Which is a bummer because both Denise and Sarah were really strong competitors.
Wonderful human beings, very sweet and good at what they did. But they messed up because they didn't believe Tony. If they believed Tony, they would have been fine.
Yeah.
And
foreshadowing.
Spoiler, Tony won. But yeah, so they ended up being those three going. Mm-hmm. By the way, this show in comparison to
sorry if we're a little like all over the place.
Well, yeah.
Sorry if we have Tony energy.
We have Tony.
Yeah,
that guy's crazy. He talks pretty crazy. Yeah. This show, like when we were doing Married at First Sight, talking about what was happening was really easy because it would be like, this couple's crazy, this person's crazy, this person's crazy. Okay, they make this kind of crazy. They're cute, whatever.
Very black and white.
This is like a
game.
It's a game and it's complex.
I get it.
It's a game of chess and it's hard to explain everything. It's hard to even pay attention to.
Yeah.
But we get there. We manage.
We still probably only understand about 75% of everything that's actually happening.
Because even like
I don't still understand the exchanging rewards for fire tokens and that whole system.
No,
I like understand like algebra, like I get the base concept enough to get me through my SATs, but I could not tell you anything deeper than that.
You know the idea of giving someone something in exchange for something else, but not
I understand A squared plus B squared equals C squared, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Man.
Thanks. Don't ask me to solve it though.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's a complicated show, but it ended up being these three people.
Well, they vote Denise off.
They vote
the
Denise
Queen
off.
Slayer, which is so great because she's so lovely. And I was saying to you that even though she pulled off one of the most ruthless moves in the game, independent of anyone else, her
without
charisma,
anybody asking.
Without asking, and without like touting it around like this big weapon, she still has this charisma that's so charming and non-threatening that like if someone like Boston Rob or Sandra did that kind of move, they would just be literally like sucking their own dick all day long, every day in front of everyone else.
Yeah, that's not the image. That's not a good image. That's our thumbnail.
You get real lonely on Edge of Extinction.
You do, especially if you're Natalie, who was there the entire time and rightfully, was a survived or whatever. But
then, okay, getting into this episode, we got to talk about there were some unexpected, heartfelt moments that made me tear up, especially with Ben and Sarah.
Ben and Tony.
Yeah, well, they Ben and Sarah and Tony all have this really wonderful bond and alliance, but like actual friendship that Ben basically sacrificed himself.
Oh yeah.
By telling Sarah that the vote's gonna split. They think that one of them refound the idols because they went back into play, and it turns out Natalie found the idol again, so she's just continuing to dominate back in the game. And so Ben told Sarah, vote me out. It'll add to your resume. You just get to that final 3 and then win this game. You're my friend. Like, that's all I want to see. A friendship is more valuable than winning this game. And I'm getting chills just recounting it right now.
Oh, the moments it hits you with.
You don't expect it. There's something for everyone. There's something for the whole family.
It's perfect. It's actually, lovely. It might be a perfect show.
We haven't watched Kid Nation yet, so
that's true. Or the second, anyway, so all right,
they have a really sweet, heartfelt moment, and it just seems so pure. And it is the interesting thing about watching this season is because they were all back again, and these people played multiple times. They know each other, and they are actual friends, and it is interesting to see the sort of like emotionless gameplay dissolve a little bit, and they all realize like, hey, the reality is I'm not going to make it to the end. You vote me out. This helps you. You're my friend. I'd rather you be my friend than we backstab each other and never talk in real life ever again.
Yeah.
It's real sweet. But then right after that, Tony goes up into his spy nest for about an hour. Just hangs out there while Sarah talks to Natalie and finds out that Natalie does have an idol. And then Tony gets out of the spy shack. He's like, oh, that was a tough one. Did you see me? My legs were shaking. I could barely hold on. I was going to fall out of there.
He's a little boy. He's
a little cartoon character. It's so sweet.
Well, we took a bet. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, of course. You just looked at me right before it got to Jeff reading the votes, and he just goes, Grace, $100.
I brought it down to $50. $100 is insane.
$50. Yeah. Who do you think's gonna win? We'll say our guesses at the count of 3.
Yeah, we'll do it.
We'll do a reenactment. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Tony.
Natalie. Okay, I right till the end forgot who I voted for.
Me too.
It should have been Natalie, in my opinion, even though I'm happier that it's Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I was going back and forth because I don't know what I value more in a player. Is it their ability to outlast on extinction, or is it their ability to outwit with things such as spy nests?
Like outwit,
outlast, outplay,
spy shast. Yeah, I think just in terms of sheer like force of will, that Natalie deserves it, just because like that is someone who is fighting the entire time, and whereas as Tony was very safe because everybody likes Tony.
Well, that's what Boston Rob said when he voted in the final vote, that she almost played a perfect game. She had the opportunity when she got to choose, because she won immunity, the final immunity, and got into the final 3. She chooses who goes with her and then who makes fire to compete to be the third person. She could, if she thought she was best at the game, and this happened before with that other guy, how specific, that they forewent their immunity and then decided to compete in fire so they could knock that person out.
See, I'm just now learning this part of the whole thing.
Yeah, so she for a moment said that she wished that Sarah would come to the end with her.
Yeah.
Her, Michele, and Sarah would be the final 3. And then Tony was like, then why don't you go fire against me? And she was like, if I really weigh out my options, I'm not going to do that. So, which I think is smarter to do. But if she wanted to be a real ballsy player to make up for the fact that she hasn't been in the game for a while, and she could have taken Tony out with fire and then added that to her resume going into like their final.
They wouldn't have been able to vote for Tony.
What do you mean? He would have been out. But then she could go. Natalie would get what she wanted by having Sarah and Michele in the final, and then she can go, I took Tony out. I decided to bring Sarah in. Yeah, so she would have won.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Boston Rob said.
That's a good point, Grace. However,
regurgitated from Boston Rob.
Yeah.
Not a unique thought.
Boston Rob had a great point. I'm still very happy that it was Tony, though.
Me too.
Very ecstatic. He's such a sweet human.
He's so sweet, and he had his
And
kids
I
with
Venmo'd
him.
you
Yes, you immediately Venmo'd me for the bet. The one thing that we didn't get to see because it wasn't, a normal finale was who Sia gave her money to this season.
Oh, yeah.
This is, if you watch the show, I guess, but the weird fun thing when we first started watching that caught us off guard is that Sia is also a huge fan. Hopefully she listens to this podcast.
Yes.
And she is so entertained by the show that she started making donations and gifting them to players that she thought were, extremely special.
Yeah, this is
for some reason.
This show keeps.
It seems like an arbitrary way that they gift.
It's
the money.
so weird because it's like, why wouldn't
like
just the
joke.
show give them? or CBS has more money than anything.
Sia loved watching you so much that she's giving you $100,000.
Yeah,
job well done.
I feel like that's like
it's setting a precedent that I don't think should happen, where we tip the people on TV for being entertaining
the
for
celebrities tip the runners up.
Celebrities tip the regulars for being entertaining.
There's something there that's pretty unnerving.
There's something that's strange, but I know the intention is pure and good, and it changes these people's lives in a big way.
I don't want it to change at all. But
we didn't get to see it this time. But there's also these people have all won, so every one of them has pocketed $1 million at some point in the past.
They're all wieners in the end.
They're all wieners at war.
The discussion that they had prior, the grilling.
Yeah.
What did you think of that? Did you like that?
I thought it was very respectful. In the seasons, now that we've watched a couple, it's interesting to see how bitter and petty people at the end will be when they start grilling the finalists. And these people, I think, because they've all won and played so many times, they have such a deep respect for this world that they all exist in, that I thought it was nice. I also think it's interesting because you get to hear how poor or well-spoken people are, and that is part of this game, is being able to represent yourself articulately.
Yeah, I feel like that would be the most fun part, is to like, you do this game and you're flying by the seat of your pants the whole time, and at the end you have to be like, it was all part of my plan. Like, I knew going into it that this person had this alliance, and therefore, and I'm like, no, you didn't. But maybe they did, because they are thinking,
Yeah, and because we get to see everything that happens in the game, right? Because this is what I put together too, why that part is important, because I thought it's just silly that they started debate club at the end of the show, that determines the winner. But because we get to see everything unfold in front of us, these people have no idea what 80% of the game is what's happening in the game with everyone else.
That's a good point.
So the only way they get to find out that Tony has a spy shack or that Natalie sold advantages to people is by hearing them say it at the very end. And I forget that, we know, why are they saying all this? We know this already. I'm like, because we're audience. We're audience. They explain everything for us already.
Jeff literally narrates every single movement that happens in the games.
Oh, yeah.
We need to be spoon-fed.
For any of you that have watched already the Beauty vs. Brains vs. Brawn, the medical emergencies that happen that season are so intense and so overwhelming to watch that both of us were just standing up in the living room, like pacing around, watching it at one point.
They can't hurt people.
Look, she's got sun poisoning too. She's got heat stroke. Oh, and he's got heat stroke. Oh no, they all got heat stroke. He's got some weird rash boil thing, and now the doctor's coming, and we're watching the doctor without any edits talk to them and give them general checkups.
Yeah. Okay, so there's one of them. Okay, so one of the beauties.
Oh God, it was so gross and weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. But my favorite part of that season, after like a lot of heat strokes and people being helicoptered out, was
many heat strokes.
The older gentleman, Tim. I think his name was Tim. Joe, whatever.
I can't believe I remember people's names.
That was crazy. Yeah. So Joe, this older gentleman, he wins this prize for a thing. His team does a challenge.
He won an immunity.
And they go and they get to eat a bunch of food, and it's a bunch of protein. And then he eats all this delicious steak as a person who not only has been on an island not eating regular food, but also doesn't eat meat regularly anyway.
He does what I do when I get high. I eat everything, and then I lay on the couch and I go, my stomach hurts.
You do that without a lot. You do that.
I do that every night.
That's not a...
You'd think I'd learned my lesson. So when that was happening to Joe, I felt like I was being taunted.
Yeah. Yeah,
they were mocking me.
So then he's in the water. He's like, I can't pee. And he's like, I'm in immense pain. I can't pee.
But you know that he's the kind of guy that for him to say he's in pain, it must be, if we experienced what he was experiencing, I would be literally swimming back home. I would be, no thank you anymore.
If a guy like that who's like very grisly.
He's like he was a retired FBI agent.
Yeah. And then Jeff is talking to him while he's in immense pain. And Jeff is just vamping because they don't have, as you recall, a tribal meeting that time because he's going home. That's the other thing. If they get hurt, their dream dies.
Yeah.
So they have to be thinking about that while they're attempting to dive off of things because half of them can't die. And it's very beautiful. But then as he's in pain and he's filling airtime with the host of Survivor and he's about to watch his dream die, he starts going, I know exactly what it is. I was at steak. It was delicious. And I don't eat meat. And Jeff, I had 3 feet of it. 3 feet
of it, which is the grossest way to describe eating meat.
Because I just imagine it as one singular.
I imagine it in his intestines, just all wiggled around for 3 feet's worth.
I can't pee.
Oh man, that's how I'm gonna order steak at restaurants. Mm-hmm. How would you like yours done? 2.5 feet, please.
Let's just say I don't want to have to pee. I don't want to be able to pee after this.
I want 48 inches and nothing less.
Sir, do you eat meat often? Never.
Never, but I wanted to fill me up until I
can't piss.
Oh yeah, that's where I feel like they've really revamped their safety precautions because it seems a lot less medical emergencies have been going down in those seasons since that we've watched.
Yeah, I guess, and that's the way to do it. Start with the safe seasons, and then when the dangerous ones happen, you're like, oh, cool. So every now and then this show is insane.
Right. I get why people are calling this crazy. Also, it makes the very first season that we watched, which was 39, the one that Nick won, seem like they had it so easy. I don't remember any medical or food issues or shelter buildings. I mean, who knows?
Maybe we missed it, but I think you're right.
It's also all blended together.
So back to this season. Yeah, you're right. We won't dive right into Last Dance just yet. I'm just excited.
I know. Well, I mean, there's not much more to say. Tony won. Very exciting. It was also really sweet because it went down to Tony versus Sarah for fire. And my knee's all crunched up.
Yeah, no,
I can't go on Survivor. I literally, my knee had to. My knee had to crack. Sometimes it cracks like knuckles crack.
That's cool.
I can't. Yeah, just call me Joe.
I can't pay. So get comfortable, guys. What were we talking about?
We're talking about how Sarah and Tony competed against each other in fire.
Oh,
and that was so dramatic. You and I were pacing around and you were just outside going, this is the greatest show ever.
Okay, there is something about watching two human beings try to make fire real quick but also when both of them captivating.
Yeah. And it's not as fun to watch, obviously, when someone dominates and someone else is struggling.
Yes.
This was a very close call, and they both are very successful at building it, and it was very exciting to watch.
Yeah, and I had the idea of us doing a fire challenge, and then quickly...
I reminded you that our neighbor's garage caught on fire about a month and a half ago.
That's part of it, but also that's just a bad idea in general. And also that no one...
The other part is that, no.
YouTube can't upload videos that long anyway, so...
Yeah, but it does make me want to learn how to make a fire.
Yeah, I guess.
Or at least try. I'd be curious to try to see.
Yeah, it's the flint, right? You gotta have the flint.
Flint, magnesium, all of it.
And then you just...
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
it seems like it's that easy.
It seems like it, once you get kind of the hang of it, I could kind of get... I think the trick is to not blow hard on the flame. That's my whole... thing.
What is the trick?
Look, the whole point of the show is that you can imagine if you would be good at many of the things.
Yeah. The fun thing as an audience member is you get to judge and shit on everyone that's doing extremely difficult things because it's probably pretty easy.
Yeah. It's, yeah. Especially, I mean, they paint all the challenge stuff like blue and red, so it looks friendly.
It looks like it's a kindergarten classroom.
And then, and you see him lifting it, and then Jeff will be like, those balls are 45 pounds each.
No,
like,
but what I
dying.
did realize is that they've just repurposed a bunch of bar games as obstacle courses.
Yeah, bar games and giant arcade games.
It's like slide these discs into a hole. See if you can get this ball into this other hole.
Yeah.
See if you can throw these beanbags into this hole. Cornhole? You want them to play cornhole?
It's just cornhole. You could say it. Which was another one that Joe won. But anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. There's not much more to say.
The show's great.
I did at the very end when Jeff did a call to action saying, we still want people to submit for casting for the show. And we want young people. I'm talking really young, like 16, 17, 18. And I went, no.
Yeah.
I don't want any teens on this show.
Yep. I want teens going against old people.
I don't want Kid Nation to ruin my Survivor.
Yeah, bring it in. Bring in the kids.
But it seems like they're scheming up some sort of teen challenge on Survivor.
Gosh.
And I don't know if I can watch that.
I don't know. I don't think it's teen. I think what it is it's Gen Z or whatever the generation is under millennials, because if they're going to be auditioning people who are 17, they're waiting for them to be 18 by the time
they're able to film. That is curious. Yeah.
Because with everything with the...
that one season we watched, the Beauty Brains Brawn, the girl was
B3?
18. That
Julia.
one girl, Julia or something?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Anyway,
it was a fun season to watch. It also made sense that they all won, because watching these other seasons with people that are playing for the first time, I think I was telling you in the Beauty Bronze Brains one, that blonde girl that got voted off almost in the beginning,
the Space Cadet.
Yeah, I was like, oh, she's just a bad player. Okay, I think we've been watching really good players on so many seasons, people that have been brought back, and these are just all brand new players. Oh, that's what it is. So it is cool to watch the winners, because they are all really good at the game, and they do make it really entertaining.
Yes, they do. And also it's we'll go into what I'm going to say next week.
Let's get into The Last Dance. I know you were so eager.
Listen, The Last Dance, folks. ESPN Netflix 10-part documentary series.
What are we on now? Like 8 episodes, 7 and 8?
10 on Sunday.
Oh, so okay, we're almost done.
So here's my history with Michael Jordan is he was always in the background of like friends that I had, but I wasn't
in
super
the background
into
of
sports.
like their
on
photos?
their walls. Yeah, just sort of hanging out. It was really, I had really
he was like
successful
a third-tier
friends.
friend of my good friends.
My 8th grade class did a lot of really great things. A lot of it was always like a culture, and I always liked it, but I didn't get it because I was like on the outside. I didn't play any of these sports.
But you love
Jordans. I tell you,
Jordans.
I love the Jordans now, but I did that, like got into it as an adult, like the way they looked, learned about the history, all that fun stuff. Still not like a ball player by any stretch of the imagination at all. But this show and Michael Jordan it's so good.
Yeah.
And Michael Jordan is actually
incredible.
Just incredible.
Yeah, I know.
He's actually like
we all growing up. My dad is obsessed with basketball, and so he would be on in the background at my house too. He makes his rounds, and so I knew that he was great. And I knew the Bulls were special. My dad would talk about it. He always thought Dennis Rodman was like hilarious, but so fascinating because he's really good at basketball and such a character off the court. And but I had no idea any of the specifics of Michael Jordan's life, his success, his history, any of it. And so it's been really fascinating to watch, and I love the way that it's structured.
Yeah.
I love that they're kind of bouncing back and forth on the timeline, but in a way that you can follow and make sense, and that they highlight all of the other major players.
Yep.
Actual players, not Survivor players, basketball players, like Dennis Rodman. It's so cool. It feels like a fully immersive documentary. It's not just about Michael Jordan.
And I loved how Michael Jordan in it will get very emotional and very moved by certain things, and he'll also talk a lot of crap about people, and they'll show what somebody said about an incident, and he'll be like, he can say that, but he was an asshole at the time, and there's nothing you can do. You can't tell me he wasn't an asshole then. Sorry.
My favorite thing is him just so openly trash talking that one slimy executive in front of everyone,
so good.
In front of his coworkers, in front of the other players, that he'll just say these one-off jokes to him.
Jerry Sprouse?
Is that his name?
I think so, yeah.
The guy, the manager guy that's like 4'2" or something. But the one comment that he made when he was coming off the court during a practice and he saw Jerry and he was like, what are those? Are those your diet pills or those make you taller?
Yeah, and that's not like a nice thing to say to anybody ever for any
but
reason.
But he says it and then just walks into the locker room and it's amazing.
There's a type of bullying that is like almost, it's also in the 90s and you're like, this is such a, like, I remember being made fun of or making fun of my friends that way in high school. It's clever.
But it also is so dark and cutting. It's so mean.
And you're like, what? And to have Michael Jordan, like, and then they go into sort of how mean he was on the court and how he would scream at people and how he would always basically be an asshole. And then they confront him in the interview and he gets emotional about it. And he's like, I've never asked anybody to do anything that I wasn't doing myself or trying to or able to do. Like, I never held anybody to a higher standard than I held myself to.
Which is true.
Yeah, and it's super inspiring because it got me thinking about people like Michael Jordan who are obsessive about being the best at something. And that's like such a rare human because I feel like now we're all like, if we can just do our best, we're doing good. Like, do the best you can do. But to have someone who's like, no, I'm going to do my best, but my best I'm going to make into being the absolute best of all time, it's insane.
Well, the other thing and why his brain, I think, is fascinating and also a little scary is that he would motivate himself by fabricating these crazy divisive stories. Grudges. He would fabricate grudges from nothing. If a guy on another team like looked at him some way that he
golf. The day before a championship, he played one of the opposing teammates' members in a round of golf, lost the round of golf, and then was like, I'm gonna beat you tomorrow, and then use that to in every game. He's like, and then he said this,
and then he used that as his motivation. He was just singularly focused on that, and I was like, wow, that's extremely powerful, and also real dangerous outside of anything but basketball.
Not what was advised. But
you can create that reality for yourself that's not true and use it to propel yourself to have successes.
Or you could be a happy person.
Right. I can't imagine if someone even possibly thinks about cheating on you.
Yeah. The advice that you typically hear with people is like, you know, if you hold a grudge, it's like drinking poison and hoping someone else gets sick. But also, it can motivate you to maybe become the greatest basketball player of all time. Because it even got to a point where he was holding grudges, and then he would tell like reporters that so and so said this as they were walking off the court, and he decided he was going to dominate them the entire time. And then later he'd be like, "I made that up. That was made up." Yeah, and I'm like, he doesn't care.
But he's creative. And he uses it for basketball.
Yeah, he's a superhero that funneled every aspect of his life into this one single thing, and it's the best.
It is
so
really
few humans like that.
It's really cool to watch. It's also cool that he's waited this long to participate in anything like that. And it's just so fascinating to me because I'm obviously not an athlete, but their ability to remember every detail or like very minor details about games from years and years and years and years and years ago, it just blows. I mean, I guess they have to watch the tapes and like study other players and study like what they've done so that it's like drilled into them. But still, the fact that they're just getting interviewed and they can pull up like from their little memory file.
Yeah, it's their
their
lives.
Job.
Yeah.
But do you remember everything you ever said in a YouTube video that you've put up? I couldn't.
No, but if I was making the best YouTube videos of all time,
I fair. Maybe that's why I can't remember is because my care level doesn't actually register and keep the memories.
The other like side of it is in addition to him being like saturated in my childhood and like always there's also, it's like he disappeared really quickly, and he went from being this like role model that like my family would look up to, and he was this, you know, very clean guy, and he would you know, he was just the best. He was always nice to people, and he would like go to charities and meet everybody.
Charismatic.
Yeah, and then you start hearing about this stuff, which I guess is supposed to, I don't know if they're even really attempting to shed him in like a negative light, but they're shedding him in a more honest light.
Yeah, and I love that they use the device where they show him the interviews that they've done with the other people in the documentary, and he's watching and reacting in real time. He's doing a react video basically within this documentary. And it's really interesting to see him laughing or getting like confused or like having different emotional responses to all the things that he's watching.
And there's such a, everything he says, I believe that he believes it.
Yeah.
So even if I'm like, if the other people are like, well, that didn't really happen like that, whatever. If Michael Jordan is like, no, he did this, I'm like, that's what happened. It doesn't matter. What that man says is what happened. And then when he disappeared for a while, I remember, like, I'm always curious about him because it's like he was in my childhood. It's like, oh, where is he now? But the back of my mind was always like, he's retiring because he can do whatever he wants and he deserves to have privacy. But I was always like, come on back do something. Like, I want to see what you're up to.
You're like, you owe us nothing.
No,
but also,
but if you want it, man.
Oh, you're so magical.
Like, I don't know, it'd be good to see you, I guess.
You make me feel like the world is okay.
Yeah, I don't know. You're kind of still like a superhero to me, so if you could, even though I don't,
Yeah, it is really like a little boy and a superhero.
Yeah, like there's
and
still
when
a little part of me
Batman
that's
shows
like,
up, they're like, Batman, the world is bad. Like the coronavirus and everything. Can we just have like Michael Jordan come back?
Maybe Michael Jordan. We don't have sports.
We need you more than ever.
Come on, dear Lord, please bring back Michael. Yeah.
But you know what? That's what he's doing. He's showing up by giving us this documentary while we're all in quarantine and the world is burning. So he is showing up. He is still doing it.
He's still doing it.
God damn! He can't stop being great and giving us joy.
Even when he's being a jerk, he's still being great.
But it is true that I don't think there is that dark of a side of him other than they hint at all this gambling stuff and then they say that he's hard on people in practice, but all the other players will acknowledge that, like, yeah, he treated us kind of shitty sometimes, but it was also for the betterment of our game and his intentions were to make us better.
Yep.
So there's like that zoom out understanding of the bigger picture, but I'm sure in the years that it was happening, the moments that was happening, it was like, this guy's a bitch.
Yeah. There's also, Michael Jordan's one of the few people that, like, if I was at an event or something and they were like, Michael Jordan's over there, I mean, you can go say hi to him. He's saying hi to people. If you want to go say hi, I would cry the moment I met him. I would burst into tears.
Well, now I can't wait.
Yeah, I would be like, and it wouldn't be.
It's
sobbing.
like a Michelle Obama for me. I would have that.
Michelle Obama?
Yeah, or Barack.
She can't do free throws at all.
Have you seen her?
She probably can't do free throws. Yeah. Those arms.
Yeah. But now we're at the point where he went to play baseball for a second, and it's very sweet how they're like, someone at Michael's level would not be on the team that we put him on, but we needed space for the media to come interview him, so we had to put him on the higher team because there's a bigger media box at the games.
That was great.
And it was like, oh, yeah, he wasn't great at it. I mean, he's really good at baseball, but he's not like pro level good.
The baseball guy was like, hi, I guess I'm your manager.
Yeah, which must have been the weirdest day of his life.
Hi, so I guess I'm your boss now, Michael Jordan.
Oh, God. Yeah, the guy that's a coach of like a third level baseball team.
Hi.
Oh, man.
Please make yourself at home.
But now he's back into basketball and he's also doing Space Jam. So we're at a real crossroads of Jordan's life.
Which do you remember the last time you saw Space Jam?
Oh, my childhood. But no, it's a movie that I saw Mindy Kaling tweet. I didn't think I'd watch Space Jam in quarantine, but here we are. Yeah. Hashtag Last Dance.
Yeah, it's I don't recall. I remember watching it not in my childhood, more recently and being like, oh, this is a terrible movie. But I love it.
But listen to what he was going through on the set of Space Jam. I thought that was the most interesting part, that he was trying to train to win this championship. And so they were bringing flying players down to the set because it became this thing that everyone would get to play Michael on set and like tour this movie set. But really it was for Michael to play against people and see how people are playing so he can strategize for the season. And I was like, wow, and they built an entire sports center on the set for him to train at while they were filming. So it was like, wow.
So he could be getting better while he's filming a movie.
Yeah, with cartoon animals.
With cartoon characters, yeah.
So I don't give him any fault for being terrible in a terrible movie.
No.
He was busy doing something else. The fact that he could memorize his lines is incredible to me.
I mean, he's full pass on anything. Yeah, what was I gonna say?
I have no idea.
Oh, it reminded me of how in Community they said that Donald Glover would, between takes and stuff, go work on music, and people would be like, oh, okay, he likes to do his little music hobby, and then like started releasing his stuff, and people were like, oh, he's like a genius. Okay.
Well,
and it's like you go to set. And
it's like that too. When I was in college, I interned at a bunch of Viacom companies, and I worked for a place called The N, which Noggin and The N morphed into Teen Nick, but it was the channel that had Degrassi on it. And so one of my jobs as an intern, one of the internships I had, was I would get dailies from the Degrassi set and have to like help categorize them. But I never watched Degrassi because it was a Canadian show and we didn't have it in the US, but I knew everyone was obsessed with it, this teen drama soap opera kind of show. And then they said everyone knows Wheelchair Jimmy, if you're familiar. A character on the show named Jimmy was shot in a school shooting episode and was thus in a wheelchair, and he became known as Wheelchair Jimmy. And they said Wheelchair Jimmy, when the show ended, was getting into rapping in Canada, and everyone in the office was like, I don't know what he's doing, but he likes to rap. He became Drake.
I know, right?
That's Drake.
I know.
I know, you know, but that's the same thing.
But
I was in an office with the production side of things going, the Jimmy character is trying to rap up in Canada. And everyone was just like, ugh.
It only works if you're successful.
Yeah, I know. And then years later, and it's like, wait, that's the guy from Degrassi.
Yeah.
That's the one everyone in the office thought was being stupid by going to rap, and now look at them go.
It's amazing. But it does go to show, like, if Michael Jordan wasn't Michael Jordan, all of this, so many of these stories would make him seem so much worse, because if you're being a jerk to people and you don't have like
anything to back it up.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. That because he's so great, we don't see it as that terrible.
The moral of the story is to work harder
mediocre,
so you can be meaner.
I guess that's what I'm learning from Last Dance, is that the better I get, the worse I can treat people.
Yeah.
Okay, I see how that chart goes.
Well,
that
thank
makes
you guys
sense.
for joining us. We don't mean that.
What are we going to watch? I mean, we have the rest of Last Dance.
We're going to watch
more
Survivor as well.
Elliott just watched Wild Wild Country, which maybe we can talk about next week, but it's an old documentary.
That's an old documentary, but I tell you, Grace, that's,
It was wild.
That's wild. It's a very, 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 very insane documentary.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's just, you know what it is, too? It's the cult thing, because we watched people know, we watched the Flat Earth documentary.
We watched, a documentary about flat earthers, and it was fascinating.
It's fascinating, and it's wonderful, and that got me down the wormhole a little bit of
cult stuff,
cults and aliens and conspiracies.
Yeah. So you're one of them now. This is your flat earther merch.
It's like quicksand. I'm gonna dip my little feet in.
I don't dip my toes in the sand. I let the sand take me in until I can't breathe anymore.
You dive like you're doing a Survivor challenge, which is just
exactly.
Cool. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for listening and watching. You can find this podcast on iTunes and Spotify, as well as the video version here.
Let us know if you thought Tony was gonna win.
Yeah, because he did. I'm happiest he did. I was rooting for him.
I know. You went with your head and not your heart, and I went with my both.
Wow. Cool. All right, bye.
See ya.